point of contact versus point of sale.
Yeah.
A lot of people are wanting to get in at point of sale, wanting the lead, wanting the sales, wanting that without any point of contact. Whereas someone like me, I went to a Friday night gala on Friday, and
Funnily enough.
and everyone that came to me had something to say about my online presence.
Yeah. And regardless if they interact with it or not, people still see it.
Yes. A lot of people weren't even connected with me, and they just wanted to acknowledge. They're like, I'm seeing all your stuff on LinkedIn, and the consensus was just Mel's everywhere.
Yeah.
But you're right, in the right way or the wrong way. And so I'm very, very active across all my channels, and that's intentional and it's strategic. And I do that through the impact framework. As I've kind of shared, everything I do has been very deep. It's always been about impact, service, and for me, finding purpose is when we get to serve others, and that's my contribution in life. So I built a framework that was very easy for me to digest, which was, if you want to make an impact, the vehicle to do that is through your personal brand. And long after you're gone, your impact will ripple down should you have left enough for your kids, for your grandkids, for future generations to be able to continue reaping the rewards of your impact.
All right. So my name's Ryan. I am the founder of the Toppin Group, and I'm doing a podcast called It's Not a Podcast, It's Just a Conversation. And I feel very fortunate to have Mel with me today. So Mel, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks for having me, Ryan. I love our little chats whenever we get them. So very excited to do it in this beautiful studio space. My name's Mel. I have a business called MCO Events. We're a corporate event management company servicing global, actually, Australia-wide, and most recently in the APAC region. So, yeah, expanding into international shores.
Congratulations. That was very cool to see.
Yeah, it's been super fun. And then a couple of different ventures, but outside of that, my personal brand has really taken off in that sense. So a lot of speaking, a lot of mentoring, coaching clients around how to build their personal brand, and going out and speaking around that topic as well.
Super exciting. Well, that was why I wanted to sit down and have a chat with you. I think like branding has shifted so much. I was talking to somebody this morning around kind of just the different decades of what marketing looked like, from kind of faceless billboards to kind of starting to leverage people and athletes and sporting figures, etc., to then kind of the reality TV type of area. And now kind of where we're sitting is like that personal branding and people actually connecting with businesses or causes through the people and the faces of them. It's been such a massive shift to kind of sit there and go through, which is why I wanted to sit down and talk to you, obviously being the expert, because I think it is also something that people can do wrong. So before we kind of dive into that, let's kind of rewind, go back to the start. So just talk through your journey. Obviously you are where you are now, expanding globally, taking over the world, but it didn't start like that. So go right back to the start. So talk us through your journey. How did you get here?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know what branding really was, right? When you go out there and you're posting online or building a bit of a reputation, I don't think even, and I'm not that old, but I don't even think we were calling it branding or personal brand. This particular word, I believe, has really come out the last 5 to 10 years, even though it has always existed per se. Yep. But I think now there's a lot more attention to it naturally because of social media and access to people. This personal touch, this parasocial relationship has really skyrocketed in the last, and I think in the next 5 to 10 years is really going to take flight. So from my journey, grew up in a town based here in Victoria called Patterson Lakes. For those that don't know, I call it like the Summers Bay of Victoria. Lots of palm trees, man-made lakes, but it was very much keeping up with the Joneses. And so very early on growing up, I think I stood out just with the colour of my skin. We were one of the only Asian families within a very Western community, and it still is today. Mornington Peninsula, Frankston, it is still a very Westernized society. So back in the 90s, we were one of the only ones that probably migrated early on. My parents are from Hong Kong and they migrated there rather than your Box Hill or Springvale or things like that. So I was kind of bullied, just kids being kids. It's just you look different, you are different, and therefore you can sit over there. And I felt growing up, I very much just didn't feel like I belonged in either. I wasn't Asian enough to be with Asian friends, but then I wasn't Western enough or white enough to be with my Western friends. So I kind of fell in the middle. And as I've grown up and talked about this ABC, Australian born Chinese communities, a lot of us feel the same as well as in America and Canada. Some of these very Western societies, a lot of us Chinese communities still feel the same. And so I was fascinated with mental health and psychology. For some reason, my interest peaked around why relationships are the way that they are, why people think that the way they think, or why people say the things they say or go into the careers. And that really ended up catapulting into a career in psychology. And so my academic experiences was I studied in Monash and I have an honours in psych, but life turned a different thing for me. Life had different plans. And I said this on another podcast recently, is like you make plans and God laughs. So whatever you think you're going to do, there's always this bigger, grander picture out there. And so it's public information. It's a lot of how I built my personal brand. So I'd love to share. So I lost my late partner of 6 years to suicide. And that was something that was a big fork in the road for me, but not just in my career, but in my whole being, in my whole understanding of why are we even here? You know, why do we jump on podcasts? Why do we wake up every day? And so for me, it was really much etched into this understanding that you have to find fulfillment and purpose in life, because on the very pointy end of the extreme is you choose to take your own life because you feel that life doesn't have meaning or it's lost all meaning. And at 23 years old, when you're planning your 23-year-old partner's funeral, they were questions that I was asking about why I was here. I was looking at my own mortality. I was looking at mortality everywhere around me. And in psych, they suspended me for 6 months. It was the best thing that ever happened to me, because they were like, Mel, you need to pump the brakes and look after yourself, and also a duty of care. If I'm working,
of course, if there's ever a sector that's going to understand that, that's clearly
and I was deep in it. So I was on the phones, a crisis counsellor with Lifeline, which is Australia's national suicide prevention hotline. So I was working in a field where you think suicide happens, you know it happens, until it happens to you, and it's a whole nother ball game.
It's scary how close every person is to actual suicide. It's likely somebody who is a lot closer to you than you would like to think, that is going through the thoughts, if not the planning and the action. It's a terrifying thing to come face to face with.
Yeah, and it holds no bounds, right? Like, it's not your socioeconomic status, it's not your religion, it's not your race. It can impact anyone and everyone.
And it's not a broken arm. You can't see it from the outside most times.
Absolutely, Ryan. Yeah, exactly. And, you know, you just don't know it's going to happen. And however sometimes life has a different thing for you. So how did I navigate that? I ended up working in events while I was being suspended. And so when people look at my career now, they're like, oh my gosh, how did you end up from psychology to event management? It's so different. But really, when you think about it, it's not. It's about human relationships, connection. We love running events because it's about like-minded people with shared values congregating together and sharing and having these really rich, fulfilling conversations, which pretty much is what we were doing in the psych room as well with our consultations, but it was one-on-one. And so...
because people, like human beings, are community-oriented creatures. So like with that community lacking, obviously it can help the deterioration of somebody's mental well-being. And so obviously for you kind of saw an opportunity to, you know, instead of kind of getting in when things have hit that crisis point, you've gone further upstream to help provide stronger communities to obviously then assist in hopefully not getting downstream.
That's a really beautiful reflection and analyzation that I've actually never looked at. I like it. You
can keep that one.
I actually think I will. I'll probably do a podcast on it. No, that's actually incredibly true, because community was one of the biggest factors that prevented me and allowed me to keep faith in a time where I also maybe didn't want to live from time to time. And the difference between obviously like suicidal ideation and thoughts and then actually going through and the taking of the action. And so, yeah, I think it can impact us all. And I never ended up going back to psych because I started building these very rich, fruitful communities. And it started off in the Australian tattoo conventions. That's how I built my first event portfolio. Is I was 2IC for the Australian tattoo conventions. We grew those shows all the way across Australia. They were bringing about 10,000 people over 3 days. And that all sounds really great, but it was actually like the rolling up the sleeves and 350 exhibitors, 10,000 people, you're learning so much, but there's nothing for me like that feeling when you get to kind of take a moment and just look at the show floor and that many people have come to your event because they believed in something. And that event was called Rites of Passage. It's still around to this day, but with the other company now. But it was very much my rite of passage when we created it. And it felt like this community of body art, tattoo culture, self-expression, all coming into this space and just being seen and really being able to be celebrated for their quirkiness, their weirdness, all of their, just interests. And that was something really, really beautiful because for the first time I finally felt like I was able to create a space where I belonged.
Tribe.
Yeah. And it's that framework. So now we've been brought into MCO events. We do the same for corporate event management. So we do this for company brands and we build their communities and we build experiential human like experiences really into their space and doing things a bit differently because brand is so much deeper than that. And I think now it almost looks like a no-brainer why I ended up in branding because for me it's very much psychology. It's very much what is a brand? A brand is so much deeper than just like the external identity of a logo or a color palette. It's how do we make this brand and our customers feel, think, act, all of those things that really make that sense of belonging to the brand. It's
funny because you see some really bad examples. It's similar to, like culture where culture became like the buzzword for corporates, 90s, early 2000s. And then it almost just became the values, the mission statements, just stuff on the wall, etc. And then now you're seeing companies, charging ridiculous amounts of money for these logo refreshes. And that's just such a poor example of what branding actually is. Okay, fair enough. You may need to change your logo as your business has matured, et cetera, but there's so much more that goes in behind the scenes. And if the pre-work or the behind the scenes stuff hasn't been done properly, you can change your logo to whatever you want. It's falling flat because the intention was very different. It's not just some colors, etc. It's like obviously as you're going to go into, like it's a real representation.
Yeah. And I really love that because I think that's what branding gets a bad rep, but also that is what was working 10, 20 years ago where you were paying 50,000, 100,000 and millions on a company branding, which was the change of a logo. And you'd be like, there's so many memes and jokes where you reveal it and it's like, what is different about that? Yeah. And because people are seeking such more depth now, more real, more essence. And we've been, especially Gen Z and Gen Y that's coming through as well, They don't want to see an ad. They don't want to see a commercial. They don't want to see a campaign. Anything that's too polished actually deters them and it's quite jarring. Whereas now, as we see on social media or we see in long form content with podcasting, people want depth. Yeah. So the pendulum always swings back the other way. And now you can't really get away with this, and with AI and the innovation of technology, you're not going to be able to get away with a $50,000, $100,000 logo revamp without really going into the depths of things. And
there's an expectation now that like we expect to go into these people's houses and really understand the family dynamics and the people behind it. Like obviously for me, like background and like interest in sport, you just see how the culture has shifted to, it's not just posters and stuff anymore. There's entire Netflix series really going behind the scenes and showing the athletes' lives and their families and their training. Like we have an expectation to know more about you than just the logo, right? Yeah. We need to see more than that of you. And it's a funny one because like there is, and I was going to ask you about this later on, but there is some privacy and there's some stuff that you need to kind of just be conscious of. But we expect that deeper level of relationship with companies, brands, people, et cetera, et cetera. That's just the society that we're
And consumers
now in.
are so spoiled for choice now.
Yeah.
We are so spoiled. We're exposed to that many ads, that much contact. So we're really also the consumers making an action and an intention of what brands they want to be connected with and affiliated with, because the brand actually says more about them than it says about you as a company.
Yeah.
And it's how it makes them feel. And one of the most powerful ones I'd say would be Phil Knight with Nike and bringing on Jordan and Michael Jordan into it. And that movie obviously was profound around a personal brand being able to, and Jordan really sticking to his guns and not being sold out to other different companies where he could have in so many different ways. But then that Air Jordan symbol now, it's recognizable everywhere. But it says something about the person wearing it. It tells us that every single one of us can be an athlete, or we are an athlete when we put on a pair of Nikes. And it's funny that like Phil Knight, obviously the book Shoe Dog was his kind of memoir, and you understand how spiritual he was right from the start. And I think the movie, I think it was Ben Affleck played Phil Knight in Air, but he kind of didn't go into like that. Obviously the movie was more based around Matt Damon's character, but it's funny that someone who had a deeper level of understanding of life and the way that spirituality and energy works got the fact that, okay, this actually does make sense to double down on an individual and get deeper. Like it's just an interesting kind of, it took that level of understanding of the world to kind of produce what we ended up with. Yeah, it's phenomenal.
So we've gone through, obviously, and thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing some pretty intimate details. We've gone through a high level of kind of your journey, and we're starting to delve into, I guess, what you're doing now and your philosophy, etc. Before we go too far, like what's your definition when you think branding or personal branding? Like what does that mean to you? Like what's your definition of?
Yeah, and without being too high level, like branding is reputation, branding is your identity, but branding is what people say about you when you're not in the room.
Yeah.
Branding is being able to be front of mind, the most Googleable to people when they associate you with something. So for us, we have words that are synonymous that we might not even know to other things. So for me, when people go personal branding or events, I want them to think of Mel Yu. I want them, because that's where my job opportunities lie, and how I win business and how I win clients is because
inadvertently you did it just then, right? When you meant the word search or look for, you said Google, right? And that's automatically what happens. Google has now become synonymous with research, searching, looking, etc.
The greatest search engine.
Correct.
We're not saying Yahoo.
Correct. But I guess that's exactly what you're talking about.
And Apple, for example, it's like, what do you instantly think of? Yeah, you might think tech, but innovation, challenges the status quo, like all these kind of words or traits adopted. Or we just talked about Nike. So we talked about some of these bigger brands that have obviously got a phenomenal brand message and a core message, but we can also do the same with our personal brand. And every single one of us going out to build our personal brand has different messaging that is required. And we also offer a different level of expertise, zones of genius, and knowledge. And so as you build out that, it's what words you really want to be associated with, and level up or associate more with those particular traits or words or community groups.
So probably a good time for us to start talking about, I guess, what you're doing at the moment. Obviously, you've got a few like big projects that you're working on, etc. So we'll talk through like the projects, and then we'll go into, I guess, your framework, what you're actually working with people with. So what are you working on at the moment?
Yeah, so I mean, MCO Events is constantly building, where we are growing. It's been a business of 8 years, but very much so, events is a part of brand. It's a way that your customers experience your brand through an event activation. And so that in a nutshell is something that we love doing. We love looking at a client or mainly corporate companies that aren't innovating very well in their event space. And when we work with C-suites and CTOs and CIOs, a lot of them have this traditional steak and wine dinner. and our clients come to us and go, how do we do this differently?
Right?
How do we do this differently, you know? And we're going away from those private dining rooms of 20. Like it still works. Definitely there's a model that still works. But what element of experience can we add into it, which is what people hire us up for, our ideas. And that's everything from guest experience to the flow of the presentation to can we break it up with a fireside chat or a workshop or a breakout activity and just bring in things that are a little bit less death by PowerPoint. And that's something that we're really passionate about in that space. And what I've realized as I work with these events and I work with these companies is people very much do care about the founder.
Yeah.
So the idea of a founder-led brand is very prominent now because we're curious, as you kind of mentioned, and we expect to know who's running the show. We want to know if we support them rather than just like a brand. We're very much tied to, and it doesn't have to be just the founder. So a lot of big companies, and I think you were showing me an article around Deloitte.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the exact C-suite founders, but it could be the employees, the marketing team. We're seeing a lot on TikTok. I was actually looking at TikTok and Instagram with Australia Post. Australia Post's socials have gone wild. Like they've just gone completely like, I don't know, it's just crazy what they're kind of coming up with, these TikTok trends, and they're bringing their employees along. But it's kind of funny, gives it a bit more depth and light, and it's a trend that people kind of are following, and we're getting to see the people in the stores.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think is becoming more and more prominent, but it's going to be doubled down, especially with the rise of AI and technology.
Yeah, because I use this example all the time, but like in my view, McDonald's has arguably the most recognizable logo brand in human history. Everyone from baby to old age knows the golden arches, but yet they did in 2024, they did $25.3 billion in global revenue. Same period, they spent $2.4 billion on marketing. So you have to put this into perspective. If a brand that already is that recognizable has spent 11% of their revenue on marketing, how much more so do us as small business owners, founders, doesn't matter how big or small your business is, what lesson can you learn from that is that it's an attention economy and people expect that those deeper levels and understanding. Is funny that McDonald's haven't gone that way. You're not seeing their employees or anything as yet. Maybe they will go that direction. Obviously their current strategy still works for them, but we literally pay for things with our attention.
Yes.
Then it consumes your thoughts and then it starts to impact your behaviors.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think the first thing that people kind of let go of is marketing and branding.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, I don't have time for that. And it's like, yeah.
Or so budget, right? Like that's one of the first things that gets cut. Oh, cut the marketing budget. It's like this is crippling your future.
Yeah, I agree. So outside of that, a lot of it has been educating and coaching these founders on how to build their personal brand. So a lot of us might already have some level of success in business and so they're at a glass ceiling and they don't know what else to do. And then it moves to, okay, well, that's because your personal brand's not out there. And how influential are you? You actually are a lot more influential than your company brand. Yeah. And so educating people around that in building their personal brand. And how do we do that is through a framework that I realized I'd been doing, living and breathing subconsciously back when I was building my mental health brand. And the best part, the most powerful thing I want people to really recognize is your personal brand goes with you. In whatever business venture you do, after you exit, sell, change careers, it's not just for founders, it's for your own, if you've got a job and you want to move industries, your personal brand is something that continues to compound as an asset and it builds with you. So that I have found super powerful because I've actually moved my personal brand in many different communities. As I mentioned, started off in psychology, then moved into mental health and started speaking around mental health. Pivoted to events, but at the time, my first few businesses was around street culture. It was very much, I built an event called Ego Expo. It was Australia's largest street culture, which was T-shirts, snapbacks, sneakers, and it was very much athletic wear, all of this kind of like culture.
Yeah.
And working with startups, it was not fun. So then we moved into corporate, and then now you've got the a bit more of the elevated premium brand. And if you actually have a look, I've shifted different groups and communities this whole journey, but my personal brand has came with me because of that level of authenticity. And so the trust that people have has just continued to compound. And so that's something I'm really excited about, because I'm sitting here now at 35 going, can't wait for what 10 more years of investing in myself and investing in my personal brand is going to get me, because it's gotten me through many, many doors of events, speaking engagements, charging a premium on pricing as well. Access to network, a warm referral goes way further because of the brand. So there's a lot of benefits into building a personal brand.
Your future customers are still consumers right now, in that they have a level of expectation. They should be able to get to know you before they sit down and speak to you. There needs to be contact points so they can go and figure out, is this somebody who I will even entertain a first conversation with?
Yes.
And the only way you can do that is by having the branding, whatever platforms you choose, et cetera, et cetera. But I see this a lot where people start to think about, okay, I want to start looking for a new opportunity, or I want to think about building a business. And that's when they start doing the brand. It's like, well, you've got 3, 6, 12, 18 months worth that you're behind. You needed to have started back then before you had thought about this, to lay that foundation, because why would somebody trust you? You may know that you're an expert in ABC. No one else knows, and you have zero credibility if they can't go and pull up something to prove that you can do. So talk us through your framework. When we were talking on Friday, you laid it out very, very clearly. So let's go. Because I think, the reason why this is I feel like this is so important is because I know that this can be done wrong, right? People can get this incorrect. So if we just give them a framework that they can at least start to work through, it starts to put them on the right track.
Yeah, and the thing is, you're right. People go, I'm not ready to build a brand. Yes, you are. You're ready to build it today. And you need to, because that level of, and I like what you said in terms of point of contact. My coach was telling me this around point of contact versus point of sale.
Yeah.
A lot of people are wanting to get in at point of sale, wanting the lead, wanting the sales, wanting that without any point of contact. Whereas someone like me, I went to a Friday night gala on Friday, and
Funnily enough.
and everyone that came to me had something to say about my online presence.
Yeah. And regardless if they interact with it or not, people still see it.
Yes. A lot of people weren't even connected with me, and they just wanted to acknowledge. They're like, I'm seeing all your stuff on LinkedIn, and the consensus was just Mel's everywhere.
Yeah.
But you're right, in the right way or the wrong way. And so I'm very, very active across all my channels, and that's intentional and it's strategic. And I do that through the impact framework. As I've kind of shared, everything I do has been very deep. It's always been about impact, service. And for me, finding purpose is when we get to serve others, and that's my contribution in life. So I built a framework that was very easy for me to digest, which was, if you want to make an impact, the vehicle to do that is through your personal brand. And long after you're gone, your impact will ripple down should you have left enough for your kids, for your grandkids, for future generations to be able to continue reaping the rewards of your impact.
Yeah, it's the foundation of your legacy, right?
Yeah.
It's the basement, it's that bottom core element.
Yeah. And I'm someone that is really passionate about, I would hate, we've got a finite amount of time here, on average 80 years on this earth, and we want to do what we can, and you don't want to be someone, I don't want to be someone that's just for the window and moment that I was here, I was like a shooting star and then nothing. Which ironically we will, but I want to be able to just leave enough there for people to be able to remember and go, far out, like she served and she really went out and gave it a good hard crack at everything. So the impact framework is built off 6 pillars, and it's chronological order. So I is for identity, being able to craft and know your story, your purpose, your mission, your why is your identity. So if you're going to build a personal brand, you're going to need a level of self-awareness, and that's just the first step. M is messaging, being able to, it's all great that I see a lot of people starting to share their story and understanding their identity part, but without a core message, which also comes down to your products and services, your impact and your identity kind of falls flat. So really being able to craft a core message around your identity. So what are your services? What is your core messaging? And how can you reach the people that you need to reach? And now you can get those two things right, but without P to publish, it's falling on deaf ears or it doesn't exist. And the amount
that's kept secret,
yeah,
right? That's what happens.
And it doesn't work because you can journal all you want and reflect on everything, but if you don't go out there and actually publish the content, you don't get any data, you don't get any reps, and you have no stats. And I'm all about building the reps and building the stats on what type of content works for you. You do not get to judge the whole man in the arena quote. If you're not in the arena, you do not get to comment on other people building out their personal brand and building out their content.
Yeah,
so
and often when people comment or feel a certain way, like if you feel negatively about somebody else, it's generally because something hurts within you.
Yeah.
Something is like there's a jealousy or there's a covetousness or there's something there that you feel the need to tear that person down because they have something that you consciously or subconsciously wish that you had.
Yeah. And now we're going into shadow work, which is stuff that I love. But it really is this balance between the woo-woo, you know. It's like, oh, this is too much, but everything is energy, right?
Correct.
And then the strategic thing, the framework, the steps, the processes. So yeah, for anyone that's listening, I do think it is a blend of the masculine and the feminine and the both. But I think, if you point a finger at someone, there's three fingers pointing back at you.
Yeah.
So where are you accountable and responsible? And when something does trigger you, explore it.
Yeah.
I think it's something that is fascinating for me because I'm like, oh, I felt some type of way when I saw Ryan post about XYZ.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because there is a knowledge gap within me.
Yeah, and I think it is, like, to be fair, for those that didn't grow up with social media, it is still an unknown, and human beings are always fearful of the unknown. You know, we learned it from young, like what's under the bed, what's in the closet. Like there's a fear if you don't know something. So that's important to acknowledge, but ignorance is not an excuse. Just because you're scared or you don't understand something, it's your responsibility to go and start to understand it. Social media, it is still a young technology, and we still don't fully understand its effects, but that's no excuse for you to just, these kids post and like they shouldn't be sharing this, that, and the other. It's like you need to understand it on a deeper level and dipping your foot in the water wherever you are. It's not about being, at, whatever Cristiano Ronaldo level, but it's understanding, step into the water first, understand what's going on, then that fear starts to subside, and then you start to allow yourself to understand why are they doing this, what's the positives and negatives, and then you can make informed decisions rather than just, this idiot kind of thing.
Yeah. And as you're saying that, when we look back at history of, you were talking about marketing, but the whole video killed the radio star, right? Yeah. Video killed the radio star, and then celebrities killed the video star, and then influencers killed the celebrities, and then now it's thought leaders, it's personal brands killing the influencers. So with every level as you evolve, you kind of have to look at where the attention economy is going. And so it's constantly shifting, but the energy still moves, the attention still moves, but it starts moving to different thought leaders. And that's why I think now we're at the pinnacle very soon of what personal brands are, not influencers. We haven't talked about influencers here. We're talking about people of influence. Yeah. We're talking about whether you have something to say, a message, you have a core identity, and you're willing to publish it online. And the last three is association for A. And for me, it always built my brand from branding by association. What rooms do I want to be in? Where do I want to be seen? Okay, old group of drinking, partying, the associations and the quality, I don't want to be associated with that. Yeah. So I stopped, started living a better lifestyle, started going into networking groups of businesses and entrepreneurs doing 7 figures plus, really was very conscious of the group that I partnered up with. Because where you network really does end up determining your net worth, because your level of frequency and the proximity to these entrepreneurs, you adopt their way of thinking. And I've always, as I've built up I've always just been very curious at how people think the way that they think. The first time I met you, I was just very curious and such a sponge in how you built your success and your wealth. And I love learning about that because it was once upon a time not accessible to me. But now that I've built a personal brand, I'm able to do these coffees and catch-ups and meetings and events with people that I really admire and I aspire. And I think you have so much to teach me and vice versa.
Yeah, we're all learning, right? Like that's the point. And I think that's something that you notice when you level up the people that you're around, is that they become more accessible because they're more open to sharing. Like when they're on that frequency and they have an abundance mindset, they understand that them giving to you doesn't take away from them, it doubles.
Yeah.
Because that's the way that energy works, right? Like it's a flow of energy. It's not just a giving, there is a receiving as well.
Yeah, I love it.
All right, so we've got up to 8.
Yeah. And then the last 2 is C is for community, which we've touched on throughout this whole conversation, which I love, is you have to go out there and build your community. Where is your tribe? You can't do this on a solopreneur level. It's about bringing in people that just really hero your mission, really understand it, and tapping into things where we all feel like-minded. Like we're social beings. So human beings need to be around people. We always have. So building out that community, whatever that community for you looks like. And the last one is if you do all of these things, you'll gain traction. And traction in sales, traction in leads, traction in scaling, traction in all of the data points that you're going out there in this omnipresence channel. These vehicles that I'm talking about as well, when we talk about publishing your personal brand online, all of them are free. Yeah. Like it blows my mind. Like when you said, we don't have a marketing budget. Instagram's free, Facebook is free. TikTok is free, YouTube is free, Snapchat is free, LinkedIn is free. All of them have an element of free social platform for you to be able to build your organic growth and messaging to reach more people. It just requires a little bit of work, a lot of consistency, but you got to enjoy it. And I find the way that you can build an impact through this impact framework is creating sustainable content with content that doesn't feel like, oh, I have to just always think about this. I just add it as part of my life. Like we could be having a meeting, we might put a camera on and film it. And then someone else now these days or AI can clip it and get the best pieces of content out there. But we're in an attention economy. So you can stay silent, you can look and say, I don't want to build a personal brand or I'm not ready. And then 5-10 years later, when all these personal brands have really taken flight, it's going to be a lot harder to build then. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to start before it's a necessity, right? Like you can't be in that survival mindset to actually thrive. That's not the way that our brains are wired. Like when we go into survival, like it's fight, flight, or freeze. That is not going to get you into the thriving kind of area. So thank you for sharing. So I feel like we've covered your journey really well. We've covered like what you're doing. Have you got like a message for people who are kind of considering it or like have started, it's not going well? Like what's your message for people who are kind of figuring this out at the moment?
I think having people around you that are going to be really honest with you as well. You could be building your brand and people are tapping you on the shoulder going, well done, good job. And you just don't have anyone around you that's giving you that tough love and a real actual critical eye on it that's going to give you constructive feedback that potentially you could be posting every single day. But if your content is shit and because you haven't understood the aesthetics of graphic design or the like the qualities of a good audio or a good piece of actual lighting and content, all of this stuff actually does add to your personal brand. And like you mentioned, you can be associated in a negative way because this person might not be professional, doesn't have their stuff together. And also the messaging is probably a bit everywhere, which is why you're not gaining traction or gaining more sales. And so finding people around that or getting someone that does and lives and breathes this every single day is helpful. Having a branding strategist specifically that's going to give you your core pillars, what to post. And we did touch on privacy, but one big thing that I think is also a misconception is if you build a personal brand, it means everything and one in your life is on show, which is absolutely ridiculous. You know, some of the most public people, you do not know their children's names or see their faces. And that is totally okay because what are we building the brand for? People don't need to know I don't have my dog on my feed. You don't see me with my partner sitting on the couch. Like, we're building out personal brands of what we also want you to see. It's all strategy as well. So I think that's also a thing. You don't have to show your matcha or your acai bowl in the morning. It's
And I think that is protection. In people's minds, it's a way for them to protect themselves where they think, like, I'm not going to do that because of this reason. It's a really good privacy. And don't get me wrong, privacy is important. But it's generally a blocker that is internal for them, and it's like a safety blanket. They're like, okay, I'm not going to do this because of this. It's like, well, it's actually a really poor reason to not do it. It's a good guardrail for you when you're doing it, that there should be a level of strategy and there should be some things that stay, private. Like, we're human beings, we're absolutely allowed to have our personal spaces, but it's not a good reason to not start.
And your business will only grow to the amount that you're willing to be seen. Like, if you're afraid to step into your light, you miss out on all the people that really wanted you to lead them and that really needed maybe their version of their permission slip because you went out there and did it.
Yeah.
The most influential people I know that finally got out of their comfort zone and started posting, some of my clients are in high luxury fashion, real estate, mortgage brokers, and in corporates, like in GM roles. And every time that I've kind of gave them that push to be on a bit more podcast for thought leadership, to share some of their wins on LinkedIn, to post about, different lifestyle elements, they were like, they are always astounded by the amount of people that then connect with them.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. We build personal brands so that we can have more touch points, so that we can build trust with our community and our audience. And when you then go and sit down for that meeting to have that point of sale, it's a warm lead.
Yeah.
And most of the time, it's why we do business in golf courses, in dining rooms, especially in Asian communities. I don't know if you've done any business in like Japan or Singapore. We don't even talk about business until meeting 2, 3, or like 3, 4. The first one is always around food and drinks. And sometimes, they really want to test you with the amount that you can drink. But it's actually offensive to talk about business in the first meeting because they just want to wine and dine you. In Asian communities, at least I know that's true for us. Because we're building relationships. We don't actually want transactional stuff. So when you build a personal brand, people start getting to see other threads of you so they can connect with you.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned the Asian community as well, because I have seen this in myself, having a partly Asian background as well as like Asian cultures. Humility is a massive thing, and I remember when I was in my granddad, speak when you're spoken to and respect your elders, and everyone is uncle and auntie, et cetera, et cetera. There's a level of preconditioning that we have to break down, that just because we're out and we're speaking about what we're doing, etc., it's not about I'm so good, I'm this, that, and the other. It is not like it's
not bragging.
Correct. It's very, very different.
Correct.
And that is something that, like, I know for myself and et cetera, like other people connected to me have had to break through those barriers. Well, thank you so much. I think that was very helpful for myself as well as people who listen to it. Where can people find you? Follow along?
I'm everywhere with Mel Yu. If you just search that, melyu.au is my website. I've got omnipresence everywhere. So whatever platform, I'm sure you'll find me. But exactly. But Ryan, it's always a pleasure. I love your energy. I love your attitude towards life. You've taught me so much in the times that we've interacted. So I really just want to give you your flowers.
Thank you. I appreciate you.